Hey, if you'd like to learn the basics of business so you can greatly improve your knowledge and your income and grow your business faster, then keep listening. What I'm going to cover right now is the essential elements that every business must have in order to succeed. And when I say this, I don't mean just the bare basics. I mean also the other elements that a lot of businesses don't really know about that really are still the basics and need to be included here. So you may not have heard about these things. And then also, the number one thing few businesses do that can quickly give you a boost. This is another one of those things. A lot of people wouldn't include this as the basics, but I would say it is, because without this, you're just going to struggle to compete today. The market is changing. There's a lot more people in business. So you need to have some kind of leg up in order to really pull ahead of everyone else. And this is one simple way that you can do that, so we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to also talk about the number one key to succeeding in the modern business world. This is something that is just a core way of approaching business, and we'll get to that in a moment. Now let's look at the business essentials. What do you absolutely need in order to have a business? Now, of course, number one is a product. It needs to be something that you are going to offer in exchange for money. The main thing here, though, is that is often missed, is you need to make sure that your product is solving existing consumer needs. A lot of businesses make the mistake of they start with a product just in general, just whatever it is, and then they look for people who would be willing to buy it. That tends to be harder. You have to do a lot more work. You have to work hard at convincing people. If you can find out what people already want and then just offer a solution for it, it's much easier to make the sale. If you do it well, you essentially can let them know you have it and then just collect the checks. I mean, you don't even need that many sales materials. There are plenty of examples of that where that happens, and in a moment we'll talk more about how you can come to understand them enough in order to do that. Now, the next thing you'll need is a delivery mechanism. Now, what I mean here is just a way of delivering your product. Your product could come in many forms, of course. I mean, you see every time you walk in a store, everything on the shelf is a product, right? Also books, I mean, even things online today like website access. It could be anything. But you just need a way to deliver it. So this is the next thing, your step you would have in your business is you need somebody to deliver it. If it's online, it could just be some software that you get. There's even free software you can access, things like ClickBank.com. Or there's also paid solutions you can access. You can put on your website to sell things. Like there's plugins for WordPress and things like that. If it was a physical product, you could pay a fulfillment center. That way you don't have to manage your own inventory. For example, you can put your things in Amazon.com's warehouse and just send them your orders, and they'll ship it for you. It makes it a lot simpler. You don't have to do you don't have to stock anything yourself. The fees are pretty reasonable. And there are other fulfillment centers too. There are fulfillment centers who specialize in DVDs, for example, where they will burn all of your DVDs and label them and then mail them for you. So that would be great if you have some sort of something on DVD that you're mailing. It could really be just about anything, just depending on what your product is. But the two main categories tend to be either software, something digital, and then a way to deliver it, like a fulfillment center. And of course, this also includes things like how people can buy it, shopping cart software like OneShoppingCart.com. This is part of it. It allows people to log in and make a purchase from you. If you're an Amazon.com partner, which anyone can become, they already give you this software. That's why I'm giving these examples, because these are pre-made solutions you can get rather than having to buy and set up software that can be hard to understand. These pre-made places like Amazon.com, you can use their own software for your customers to buy things from you, and even offer things in their marketplace too, if that was what you wanted, so people can find it on Amazon. But that's what you would need, is a way to deliver it, and then you would need a way to take orders, basically. Now, of course, for taking orders as far as the money side, you would also need a payment processor. The easiest one is PayPal.com, starting out. It allows you to just process payments online. There are others available too, but I would just start there for simplicity. The best way to usually do this is just start simple and then build from there. And the next thing you would need is your traffic. This is just referring to the people looking at your offer. So if you had a website, it would be the people coming to your website to view it. If you had a physical store, it would be the people coming into your store. So if you see what I mean. So the way that you will get this will vary depending on what you're doing. For example, if you use something like Amazon.com's marketplace, they already have traffic, so to speak. So there's already people looking at their site and searching for things. So if you build a product that already fulfills a need that people are looking for on Amazon, for example, people are already looking for it. So it's a lot simpler. Another example of traffic, though, is like, for example, in search engines, you can use different ways, like search engine optimization. And we'll actually talk more about specific ways to get delivery mechanisms, how to sculpt your product, and how to get traffic in a moment. I'm just giving you a quick overview first. And the other ways you can do, there's paid advertising, of course, magazines, things like that. But the cheapest ones tend to be online. It's just cheaper to get started. So that's what a lot of new businesses will be doing. It's things like search engine optimization. which can be completely free if you do it yourself. It depends how you structure that. There's also paid advertising, things like on Google, Bing. You can also buy banner advertisement websites. Again, we'll get into the specifics of which ones, how to use these in a moment after this overview. And the next one is simply conversions. And what I mean here is just you need some sort of sales materials that work. So it could be your website has a sales page, or even if it doesn't have a sales page, it just has, like I say, it has a blog, but some people buy through the blog because they like your they like your content and then they take your recommendations, sort of thing. That counts too. You just need something that that people can look at that would make them an offer. Basically, it could be a print letter in the mail that they receive in the mail. It could be in a magazine. It could just be just about anything. Of course, here traffic and conversions are very closely related. Traffic being simply the people looking at the offer, whereas conversion tends to be something that makes the offer itself. Again, the cheapest one today is just start online. Most people are doing that. Even startups that are where they're starting with venture capital, they get from a venture capital corporate organization. They're still often start online. Just get simpler to get started before they even go offline. So that's really something that you can do as well today. It's simple to set up a website access, and we're going to talk more about specifically how to do that in a moment. Now, first, let's look at the little used advantage you can use here is secure. Now, we talked a little bit about this before. Start with your target market. We talked about this before in terms of solving problems with your product that already exist. What I mean here is this is the step before that. Start by choosing the people that you're going to specifically help. And often the easiest way to do that usually is just to look for the common problems they have. You want to find problems you can solve that people will be willing to pay for something in return for you doing it. Like, for example, the hardware store solves thousands of problems, based on somebody looking for any number of different pieces of hardware. And they make money in return for bringing it all in one place. I mean, can you imagine if there wasn't, an aggregator of things like that? If there wasn't a grocery store, how much more complicated it would be. So they basically make money for aggregating things in one place so people can come and find what they need. Banks give you access to your money anywhere as well, depending if you're banking, where you're banking. You could also get interest, so you're making money for making a deposit. And in return, they get to make money by investing what you put into your account. This is just examples of problems that they solve, and in turn, they make money. And that's really what you need to start with here. It's too easy to get caught up in thinking that you need a product and then to just sort of invent a product out of thin air. I see a lot of new entrepreneurs do this. Myself have been a consultant for a number of years. What we're going to do is start with the market and then figure out what they want, what problems they have. The easiest way to do this today, and we'll talk about specifically how to do this in just a moment, is look at keywords. This is just a good place to start. Keywords on search engines are just the search phrases people type in, like a homemade lemon pie recipe, New York City restaurants, whatever it might be. Those are specific problems people have that they want solved. If you really think about that, that's a problem someone has and they're looking for an answer. So if you can already see what people are looking for, you already know what problems they have. There are, of course, other ways to do this, but the other ways tend to cost more and require more sort of background and involvement on your part. So keywords are just the simplest place to get started. And then once you know your target market, you want to do some research on them as well. Keywords are a great place to start because it shows you specific problems they have. But then also for the conversions part that we're talking about, your sales materials, the better you understand the people who you're making an offer to, the better you are going to make sales. Because a percent of the traffic you get, let's say you get 100 people to your webpage, a percent of them will make a purchase. Not all of them are going to. So if you understand them better, you can make better sales offers, and you'll be able to have a high percent of them make a purchase. So that's why thorough research is huge. And I would really need to bring this up because most businesses, unfortunately, when they write their sales materials, they focus on things like it looking cool or it's sounding funny. It doesn't really work. Like you see these corporate websites where it's like super fancy, and they paid like $20,000 for a graphic design company. That actually does not convert to sales better. I can tell you as someone who's been in the industry for a long time. A lot of times the simpler websites with just text actually make more sales than these really goofy advanced websites with all sort of flash pop-ups and things that cost through the nose. And so this thing about thorough research is just correcting sort of the core fallacy that the industry tends to proceed on. It's more important that you know what to say in order for them to understand your product and want to buy it than it is for you to make it look cool or how good you are at writing or anything else. Come to understand them, come to understand what they are interested in, and then talk about what they're interested in, whether that's in videos on your website for making sales, whether it's in your sales materials, or anything that you're using for conversions. Focus on simply talking about what they're interested in first. And if you don't know what that is, do the research into them specifically, such as looking at the websites that are popular, looking at different books and things, looking at magazines, ads that are selling a lot right now. We're going to look specifically, I'm going to show you a resource for how you can do detailed research. But this is how you can get the real edge. Most businesses, even those who maybe sort of we could say know better, they tend not to do this. They're too lazy. But it's actually a huge leg up. So if you do this thorough research, and I'll show you how to in a moment, it actually is easier in the long run because it makes it easy to do everything else because you already know what you need to do in order to make money instead of just guessing and hoping it works. But very few people do it, so you really have a leg up here if you do this. And the last thing is just have a growth plan. But what I mean by growth plan is most businesses sort of set up shop and they sort of wander around aimlessly, as strange as it sounds. Even ones that are doing quite well, they sort of stumble into things without really having a clear purpose where they're going. If you have a growth plan, like a specific plan for how you plan to make more money next month than you did the month before, you're more likely to make more money than you did the month before. It's just a simple matter of focusing on it and actually attacking the problem rather than sort of letting it slip away and catch up on you or just happen by accident. This is an example of what I like to refer to as deck stacking. I mean, you can stack, like you could say that life has an element of luck to it, but you can also stack the odds in your favor. It's like it's like playing casino games with loaded dice, or something like that, or counting cards. Like, you can say that there's luck to it, but you can also load the odds in your favor heavily. So, and of course, here I'm not referring to anything like this as being cheating, the way you might view those things in terms of casino play. But if you want to succeed at something, particularly in this case in business, you want to stack the odds in your favor. You want to make it easier to succeed rather than simply pushing harder. And having a growth plan is one way to do that. It really just keeps you focused on the specific goal that you have and attack that. Now I'm going to show you a specific growth plan you can use yourself in a moment. This is something that was pre-made that I've prepared, and we'll talk about that in just a moment here. First, the number one key in modern business. This is something I really wish was talked about more. I've been a consultant for a number of years, and this is the biggest problem that I have to correct. Even in many business owners who have gone on to quite a degree of success, as soon as they correct this perception, they often do a lot better. This really holds people back. And that is avoid into this modern depiction of quote-unquote internet marketing. They may not always use these terms, but there's like all these things that go around talking about how the modern business, you go online, you push 3 buttons, and you make tons of money. Even if they're not being that dramatic about it, they exaggerate about how easy it is, and they try to sort of circumvent the idea that it's a real business. If you want to succeed in business, first thing, from the beginning, ignore everyone who's saying that, and just realize that you're starting a real business. It is not something that is a shortcut. In many ways, it's easier than it used to be, and things like this. But you should really escape the thinking that it's just somehow this super easy thing where money just flies out. Now, I'm going to show you a resource in a moment that makes this a simple process, but that is not necessarily the same as an easy process. And what I mean by that is that it is deadbeat simple to follow this checklist and set up a business and a growth plan that I'm going to show you in a moment. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the same as just clicking 3 buttons, or that isn't going to take you some hours to set it up. And it's just clear to get clear with this on yourself from the beginning. If you do this, you're much more likely to keep going and succeed. If you go into this thinking it's supposed to be super easy, you're going to get frustrated and under a week and quit. It happens all the time. And this is really, it tends to be one of the biggest things that separate people from go further in it and people who don't. So this is something that you can do to really put yourself ahead, give you an edge. Now, all of these points above were actually sourced from a manual on work1099.com that you have access to. This includes the specific details on all the steps that we covered, such as product conversions, traffic, everything that you need to set up, how to set up your business, and then also a growth plan already set up for you, showing exactly detailed, step-by-step, very similar to a checklist that you can use, including the courses that you can access in order to back this up. And you can download this manual for free on work1099.com. So what you want to do right now is, if you want to get the benefits from this, you want to go to work1099.com, get signed up, and get the entrepreneurial manual. It's freely available, and then immediately dive in on that and start taking a look at this stuff. You'd be amazed at how fast it can happen. But it's important that you do that as soon as you can, because the sooner you get started, the sooner you're going to start experiencing these results in your life.